But dude, I've never met kids like Locke, like Fergus.
Oh my
like,
God, right? Yes.
like those guys. I'm saying just kids that were great guys. Like I still, I mean, we're like friends on Facebook, and like I'm like just like stoked to like I'm just so happy to like have had this friendship with them. But like they were just different
Yeah.
than like I was, and different than you were. Like just different kind of experiences. Great guys, just different. And it was interesting because looking at you, looking at John, and looking at everyone, which I guess it makes sense because they went to Monroe, and
Yeah.
you lived on the block with all the kids
Yeah.
that went with that went to Monroe. When you got to Fitz, it seemed like you kind of just blended. Like I'm saying, you knew everybody, and I remember like I was like, okay,
Yeah, it was. And you know what? That's a great point because I guess I didn't really think about it, in that I had friends at Northcutt, and then I had friends in my neighborhood, which was actually quite a few,
yeah, oh yeah,
as it turned out. And we were all at Fitz. All of a sudden, I'm like, "Hey, you guys!" And so I got this group of people, and then they're introducing me to other people
Yep.
that they know. Like, oh, they went to Monroe. So obviously those people kind of mingled, and everybody ends up at Los, and it's different. But yeah, you end up meeting more and more people, and yeah, I stuck with that bunch. The group, my surrounding group, just kind of continued to grow. Because you're right, between junior high and high school, I remember at Los, I remember counting once. I was literally having lunch. There was like 25 of us. It was this huge. I'm like, good grief! Like all these people, like we all just hang out together and eat, and which is kind of crazy if you think about it. Typically, like a little clique of people, but
right,
right. Like, man, it was nuts, right? Because this person knows this person, and all of a sudden, you're like, people are just kind of jumping into the world. But yeah, it was for me. It was interesting navigating like the introduction and then the adapting of how I've always. My mom told me this, and I think if I kind of feel that way. She's like, I've always been kind of like a social chameleon,
yeah,
where, and I use this for work too. Is I always try to meet people where they're at. Like I find something I relate to you on.
common ground.
Yeah, so I'm like, yeah, we could be like, oh, there's something we could be friends about, and we just talk about that, right? And so like I would always just make friends with people because I would latch on to something they liked that I liked.
I always remembered you were interested in other people.
Yes.
Like when we were younger, and not that I wasn't, but you had a way of noticing things about people, whether it was a Greg Lyon, whether it was a John Kim, whether it was who John Kim would be Brian in the
Right.
85, 86 world. You just like you understood kind of, I guess, what they were going through as a kid when you were a kid. I didn't really have that until you would sort of lay that perspective on me. Then I'd be like, oh, okay. Like, and maybe that's why I'm feeling something right now. Like,
Yeah.
like because that's what this person, and so, but where do you think that comes from? Do you think that that's an immigrant thing, kind of having to come in and blend in and like,
You know what?
because your family was literally thrown in. You said it like
Yeah.
homes and okay, go.
Yeah, I think maybe, I guess not even realizing it, you kind of build up this empathy for people who are just trying to adapt, right? And you're in this mode where, hey, that person's just trying to fit in, or they don't feel, we're like, hey, it's cool. Like, we can relay on this. Let's, we can be friends that way. Yeah, maybe, right? So maybe it's something there. Some of it is personality. Some of it you just build up the empathy over time to just try to relate to someone on anything.
Right.
So that they don't feel awkward or excluded or anything. I've been that way. I still do that, right? So you just, even if it's a little thing, right? Just try to connect with people. And I think it goes a long way because you never really, I think you miss a lot if you just only kind of gravitate towards people that are just like you.
Exactly.
You're not going to get, different opinions. You're not going to get opened up to things.
I want to be around people I disagree with. And I also want to be around people I agree with. I want it all. Because I want to...
You should disagree with people because they're always going to come at you with something you haven't thought of. You're like,
right.
Wow, okay, that's fascinating. Never even thought of that angle, right? And it's where that whole kind of perspective of, no, you have it easy, right? It's like the whole immigrant thing, like, this is nothing, right? Well, we can figure this out. Which I think, to what you, before you turned on the camera, we were talking about like old TV shows and stuff. I think I find my peace in, which I guess a lot of people do, I would imagine, but kind of like reverting back to watching like old shows that are like that feeling that you rekindle that feeling you used to have when you were younger. You'd watch an old show and
like
you're like
Family Ties,
yes.
or like one thing I like about, for instance, watching the Andy Griffith Show or just having it on in the background. I wasn't born then, and that was at a time. So when I started watching that, and when that show came out, like both my parents were still alive, my grandfather was still alive. I was a young kid. Like if you could ask me, I don't know that I've ever even talked about this. Like, hey, Evan, what would you like heaven to be? I'd like heaven to be suspended animation in time of me as a little kid in the 80s. You guys are all there, and we're freaking hanging out, and I can walk to Markham Street and hang out with you guys.
Right?
Like, I mean,
great?
But at the same time, and I think you would agree with this too, there's recognizing that, but there's also, you don't strike me, and I'm hoping I don't strike you. I don't want to live in the past either.
Right.
It's like, because one thing I'm happy about is when you and I met, before we talked about any of this stuff, like we talked about like the fact that you're still doing a band, how you and Rachel from high school ended up becoming, like, I had no idea about that part of your story, which makes up so much a part of who you are.
That's
like,
I am now,
So
and it's it opens you up, changes your perspective on a lot of things in life.
Where did your style come from as a young kid? I wanted to ask you this, and no, dude, you always had style, and I don't know if you ever saw, there was a thing from Northcutt that they posted, and there was a picture of you, and that's why when I drew you in the movie, you're wearing a tie. It was on Facebook.
Really?
And there's a picture of you.
I gotta get on Facebook
and,
again.
Well, you're in like a white thing, long. I think the shirt's blue, but you're wearing a tie. Or you may not be wearing a tie, but you're dressed up. And this was just a regular day at school, and we were in 6th grade. And dude, Mr. Lamb's class, I mean, dude, we were playing snakes, we were playing rats, we were playing out in the dirt. And dude, it wasn't like you didn't do these things. You did all these things. Where'd that sense of style come from? Was it your sister? Was it your mom?
I think it was the exposure of like.
Because you taught me how to roll my pants.
Yes, I remember that.
I probably did it wrong, but you taught me how to roll my pants.
It was funny, I was really attracted to the style thing and just not, being on a budget, not looking like everybody else, right? I remember what's funny is just I was really fascinated by how Duran Duran dressed.
Okay. Oh, okay.
So get this. I actually remember just trying to try different things. I remember I talked to my mom into going. She had gone to Chess King at Westminster Mall.
Chess King.
Remember that?
Chess King was a mythical place that you and John used to talk about.
It was a clothing store.
Well, I always remember feeling like, I need to graduate. Like, I'm still at Miller's Outpost. Like I need to graduate to get
Miller's
to
Outpost is great.
King.
I love Miller's Outpost. But they had these dress type shoes, right? I remember buying these gray dress up lace shoes. And I had the pants, and then I had this gray shirt that was like a quarter thing, and it would button up here. And I remember finding this leopard sash thing, it was a scarf, and I tied it to my waist, thinking I looked like Duran Duran. And I dragged Greg Lyon with me to Westminster Mall, walking around we're in the food court, and I'm thinking I'm all cool in 6th grade. It was the funniest thing. And Greg's looking at me, and he's trying to keep up, poor guy, and he's like, wow. And I was I was just walking around like a peacock, apparently. Just like, I'm like, I love it. I was just trying to be different, I guess.
Dude, but we would go to the mall, like our
So
parents
funny.
would drop us off in those days, and we would be there, I want to say, for hours.
Hours on end.
I mean, literally, like...
Cruising, loitering, hanging out in the food court. That's what you would do.
Would you save up money? Would you save up money to like be able to buy like how were you getting your money? Was it like were you saving it up from like chores?
Sometime my parents never really gave me money for chores. Like I would ask for things and they would kind of like set money aside. Like I would kind of see them like, hey, I'd go with them. I'd point it out. They'd try to work for it. My dad would give me some money. So when you and I met, as a matter of fact, I was talking about my dad's odd jobs in the evening. My dad at one point was cleaning offices at night after he got off of his day job. And when I was in elementary school, I was going with him at night to clean offices. And as weird as I think about it now, and I never thought of it as work. I would like help him vacuum and take trash bags. And I got all excited because he'd buy me a soda.
Right. You had that to look forward to.
Yeah, I'd look forward to soda hanging out with my dad. I'd get home like 10 something at night. It was like...
So was that happening when you and I met?
Yeah,
and you and
absolutely. I would go work at night with him like a few times a week, and it was just part of like, you want to go help him? Yeah, let's go. And it was weird because like he's teaching you work, but you don't think about it. I was just hanging out with my dad.
Right.
So with that stuff,
and you were seeing a work ethic of like, hey, he not only does he get up in the morning and do this, he gets home, comes home.
Lazy is one thing my dad is not. My parents are not. He's never been that way.
Do you think that rubbed off on you? It's why you've been able to kind of work in the industries that you've worked in. Why, remember we were talking about earlier, why you got into that startup, were able to start something.
Yeah,
I'd
like to think so. I like not being lazy is a really big thing. Now, mind you, I'm not comparing myself to him because I'm nowhere near the level he's at.
Right.
He still does it. He's 82 and he's still going to work, which is a whole other story. I don't even want him to work. My dad.
Does he still drive?
Yeah, he's still driving. But my dad is old school. If I go over to visit them, and I'm like, oh yeah, I took a day off from work, and he flips out. He's like, what are you doing taking a day off from work? He thinks I'm going to get fired. I'm like, no, it's okay. We're actually allowed to take days off, right? I'm just coming to visit, right? And my mom's like, would you stop? But it was just like, that's not how he's wired. He's like, it's not the weekend. What are you doing here, right? You should be working. And it's people from a different time, a different mindset. And I had to, that work ethic is a big thing. When I worked when I was at Los and I worked at Straw Hat, I loved working there. To this day, still my favorite job.
What did you like about it so much?
I liked the camaraderie. I liked, it was fun because there was a bunch of young guys.
Did you know it inside and out? Was that another thing that you liked about it? Like there was nothing that was going to happen that you were going to be like, I don't know.
No, it was, everything. Like you get to a point where you learn everything and they teach you. There was a point where, people had moved on, but there was a point when I was older. I'd been there for a number of years. That I was the only one there by myself during the day because the owner, his name was Steve, it was the second owner. He trusted me. He'd leave me there all day. I'd come in the morning, he would open up, and we'd be sitting there, and he would like cut the pizza rounds. I'd help him with the pizza rounds. We'd throw the sausage in the oven, and he would take off, and the pizza would come out. And I'd sit there. I'm like, this teenage guy, late teens, dealing with all these people that are like
getting your own
day drinkers and all this stuff before hanging out. There's some wild bunches that would go in there, but it was just such a fun place to work, and it was genuine work because you did everything yourself, right? It was like you're making the food, you're chopping the vegetables, you're making the dough, you're making the sauce, you're cleaning the bathrooms, you're cleaning the back of the bar. Everything we did ourselves. It was no pizza's already made and you throw it in. We'd burn ourselves because you're in there popping bubbles in the oven and all that. It's not like it is now where it just kind of goes the conveyor belt. It was
right.
Old school, right? A lot of us got burned doing that stuff.
Like you learned how to use an oven.
Yeah. And you're in there spinning and you learn real quick you're going to get burned. I remember burning this finger and it's like my skin was bubbling because I burned it so bad. And just like, weeks of aloe vera gel to get it to heal, burning my palms, trying to save a pan pizza. And the owners, everybody's like, why did you let it fall? I'm like, it was my instinct to save it. It comes out of the oven, it falls. I'm like, and I volleyballed it, burned my forearm. Everybody's like, what are you doing? I'm like, I don't know. It was my instinct to save the poor pizza.